Welcome to the Museum of St John Henry Newman here at the Oratory in Birmingham, which he founded in the 1840s, and this particular house which he built in the early 1850s. The museum was set up in the year of his canonization in order to show some of the details of his life, remembering that he lived an extraordinarily long life, covering virtually the entire 19th century, born in 1801 in London, and then dying here in the Oratory in Birmingham in 1890. And so what we try to do here in the museum is to give you as general an introduction to all the different aspects of the cardinal's life as we possibly can in a relatively small space and in a relatively short space of time. As you can imagine, it's quite difficult to convey everything of importance about a man who lived such an extraordinary full life until he reached a great age of 89 years when he died. So here we can see some of the relics of St John Henry's earliest years. First of all, I mentioned that he was a great letter writer. There are no fewer than 32 volumes of his letters throughout the whole of his life, and they're only the ones that we've actually still got record of. We know that he wrote many more that have not been preserved, so he was a prodigious letter writer. But we have the great joy of having his very first letter here, which he wrote when he was only 7 years of age. It was a letter to his mother from school, where he was living in a boarding school in Ealing, and it's beautifully written in lovely copperplate handwriting, saying that he's looking forward to coming home for the holidays in just a short time. Then also we see there one of Newman's school books with his name in, again dated 1809. And I've mentioned that Newman was a great musician and a player of the violin and also the viola as well. And here is a very interesting example of Newman's own composition. And he, interestingly enough, when he wrote this music, of course he didn't publish it as such, but when he wrote it, he even actually used an Italianized version of his name. Of course, it was obviously regarded as somehow or other more authentic for a musician to have an Italian name. So he called himself Giovanni Enrico Neandrini, which is a kind of Italianization of John Henry Newman. The spectacles that he used from very early years. A letter in his more familiar handwriting from 1834 to one of his old friends, who was the wife of one of his former companions at Oriel. When the fellows married, they left the college and went to live, usually as clergymen, as parish clergy out in the countryside. And so he wrote to the wife of one of his friends, Mrs. Wilberforce, who was to remain a great friend of his throughout life as well. Also, a text here of one of the cardinal's sermons. We have very many of the original hand-written sermons, which were later collected by him into several volumes known as the Parochial and Plain Sermons. But also there were other sermons that were not published at the time, which have since been gathered together. So there's quite a large collection of sermons written over the years, mainly as an Anglican. But even when he became a Catholic, although he didn't write down his sermons in full very often, we still have quite a lot of sermon notes from that date as well. Also mentioned the important series of tracts which Newman and his friends wrote after the 1833 formation of the Tractarian movement. And these were pamphlets, as you can see here is a good example of them, which give an explanation of certain aspects of the life and character of the church, and in the movement to revive the apostolic nature of the Church of England historically. There's a very fine drawing of the Newman family here, which you can see Newman with his mother and his siblings. So there is John Henry himself, and then his sister Harriet, sister Jemima, his brother Frank, and his mother also Jemima, of course. This was drawn by another great friend of the family called Maria Giberne, who remained a great friend of Cardinal Newman's throughout their lives, and she also became a Catholic in later years, and eventually also a religious in France. So the important the documents that we have here are, there's the Newman's original copy of the rules of the exercises of the oratory, explaining exactly what the practice of the oratory was about, and that gave him the idea of how the oratory could be adapted as a form of religious practice for ordinary people in England in the 19th century. Obviously slightly different in some ways from the 16th century in Rome, but nonetheless there were important points of continuity which he was able to see and also to understand exactly how they could be adapted as well. So he was received into the oratory, which he then of course became a member of and brought back to England, where he set up the oratory here and then later on also in London. Then we move on from there. There's also this very interesting painting, again Maria Giberne's painting, whom I mentioned before. And this is a painting of Father Newman in 1851, so when he was still fairly recently a Catholic priest, giving his lectures, a famous series of lectures called On the Present Position of Catholics in England. And this was an important kind of defense of Catholics against Protestant propaganda, which often exaggerated or caricatured Catholic beliefs and practices. And Newman wrote a very spirited and indeed often a very amusing defense of Catholicism against some of the accusations made against Catholics. Then, of course, as a Catholic, probably his most famous poem was the very long poem, The Dream of Gerontius, which was later, of course, famously set to music by the great English Catholic composer Edward Elgar. And Newman wrote this, in fact, on many different scraps of paper. In quite a short period of time, he felt the inspiration to write it. And it describes the journey of a soul from just before death, through death, and then traveling to the individual judgment before the throne of God. And then, assisted by his guardian angel, Gerontius' soul then goes to purgatory to be cleansed for its final preparation to enter into heavenly bliss. It's a wonderful an examination of all the ideas involved in the Catholic theology of death and judgment. And then also we have a contemporary illustration of Cardinal Newman's lying in state here at the Oratory in 1890, prior to his burial out at Rednall. His cardinal's skull cap as well, which he wore obviously on a daily basis. Then a very beautiful bust of Cardinal Newman here, which was made by one of his old school friends from Ealing days. And Westmacott made this as a kind of study for his own work as a student of sculpture, and then exhibited and gave the original to Newman as a special gift. So it's remained with us ever since. Okay, so this is the official papal document with the papal seal, making Newman a cardinal in 1879. And being made a cardinal, he was also given a church in Rome, which is the custom, since cardinals are officially, they're members of the clergy of the Church of Rome, the Diocese of Rome, and every cardinal therefore has his own church. And Newman was given, appropriately enough, the church of St George. It's a beautiful little ancient church in central Rome, and obviously appropriate since St George is also the patron saint of England, and Newman, of course, was always a proud Englishman all his life. So he was very pleased to be given this church as his titular church in Rome. There are some other relics which relate to various periods of the cardinal's life here, which are all mixed up together. First of all, there is his Oxford master's hood. So this is what he would have worn not just for academic occasions, but also as a clergyman. He would have worn that for liturgical duties as well, as was the custom at the time. And famously, he took that off and hung it over the rail at Littlemore Church when he preached his last Anglican sermon before he was to be received into the Catholic Church. Then various relics of his status as cardinal, a cardinal's biretta, a cardinal's hat with the splendid decoration on it, and also cardinal's cincture. Interestingly enough, we've also got wig that he wore. I mentioned the illness that he suffered in Sicily in 1833. During that time, all his hair fell out, and so he wore a wig for the time it took for his hair to grow back again. And so that's what we have as the relic of that famous period in Sicily. And here we have Cardinal Newman's chalice, which he used for his daily mass here in his private chapel for those final years of his life when he celebrated mass privately. And so this is a wonderful relic of his priestly life, especially as a cardinal. It was also the chalice that was used on the occasion of the cardinal's beatification in 2010 by Pope Benedict. So here we have Cardinal Newman's red silk cardinal's cassock, and also the red buckled shoes, a part of the official uniform of a cardinal, especially in the 19th century, and also the pectoral cross, which would hang around his neck as well. So that would be the normal kind of official dress of a cardinal for special occasions. Then there were other kinds of forms of cardinal's dress. He would also wear, custom on an ordinary day, a black cassock, but with scarlet piping, as we call it, so to the edges of the cassock and around the buttonholes as well. And on the mosetta, that is the cape, again black, but with red lining to it and red piping around the edge as well. So that'd be for ordinary days. Then also on penitential days, there was a cassock in purple silk, so obviously representing the time of penance, such as in Lent. So this would be worn not on the highest days, but on those days in penitential seasons as the official cardinal's dress. And again, plainer buckled shoes to go with it. and also another vestment, the ferriola, with a kind of cape that goes over the shoulders around the back as well. Again, partly of the same purple colour, but lined also with the scarlet as well, to show that it is a cardinal's vesture. Again, and then finally, of course, as a cardinal, Newman had the right to wear a mitre and other pontifical vesture as well. So, although he was not a bishop, nonetheless, as a cardinal, he still wore a mitre. This is the example of the precious mitre, as it's called, one of several different forms. Again, this would be the most grand form of mitre that would be worn on special occasions and at particular points in the celebration of Mass and its other divine offices as well. I mentioned that in the 1860s, Cardinal Newman, Father Newman as he was attacked by Charles Kingsley and accused of dishonesty, and wrote a wonderful work which was responsible really for rehabilitating him with many of the public, called his Defense or Apologia Pro Vita Sua, and he wrote that, in fact, largely at this desk here. So this is quite an important relic of that very important period of Newman's life, when he wrote this major defense of his honesty and of the process whereby he had become a Catholic. So he wrote it standing, and often he was writing for many hours of a day, with very little time to sleep or eat, because he was so anxious to get as much of this down as quickly as possible, so to be published in fortnightly installments, and then of course brought together finally as a single book. But this of course enabled him also to consult many other documents without having to stand up and sit down again. So it was actually quite a convenient way of writing.